always look at the hands. What about the one where you look somewhere else?
Like
you
where
look,
you're going? Or just practicing cartwheels?
Practicing cartwheels that way. Looking.
That's always a good drill. So again, let's go X to X cartwheel and then lunge to lunge cartwheel. So if I'm doing X to X, an X, again, if this second hand is up more, I'm fine with that. I don't want it any lower than my shoulder, ever. Okay? Always up. You lead in, bend that lead leg. We're looking for cartwheel. Coming up square. Hips on that line constantly throughout. You're going to get some, especially some of the girls who, they prefer lunge to lunge cartwheels and they actually have a hard time doing that sideways cartwheel. And force it. Don't let them come up like this, or even kind of halfway in between the two. We want them to be able to have that neurology between an X to X and a lunge to lunge, okay? And so for lunge to lunge, this is our start position. Not this, not this, not this, especially not this. The lazy arm thing is something you've got to constantly be harping on, because they'll go like this into their cartwheel. The thing is, if at a level 1, they do all their cartwheels like this, then guess what? When they get to level 2 and 3 and I say, okay, it's time for front handsprings, they're going to go like this. And that's going to have an impact on the quality of their handspring. So here, always, I come up, I'm constantly slapping kids. You know?
Don't leave marks.
Don't leave marks. But, and as far as like tightness and that kind of thing, small taps are some of the best things. And it takes him a little while to lose it. So let's say he comes up, he's lazy. I'm like, okay, tight arms. And I'm constantly saying tight arms while I do this. And then after a while, if I've had a kid for a couple of months, and I've got a line of kids, and I'm walking a line, they're doing lunge, kick, handstand, or whatever, I see a kid come up, lazy lunge, I just do that, and I keep walking, and they know. They know what that means. And even on the bars, they'll come up out of a pullover with bent knees. I just smack their knees a little bit, and they go, whoa, okay. And especially if we all start doing it that way, then we're teaching these cueing, and we can be coaching that kid, and actually we're coaching 2 kids at the same time. And it's these quick cues, so you don't have to,
Tap.
You don't
slap.
Huh? Tap. Yes.
We don't slap our kids.
We don't slap our kids, we tap our kids. But again, it gives them that biofeedback right away too, because they know, oh, I got to fix that. There's that instant nerve response, which is great, gives them the right neurology. So for lunge to lunge, Russ, I don't want to leave that on. We want to start with that nice front foot square. Rear foot can be turned out. I don't worry about that too much. We kind of want the dancer's lunge a little bit. Arms up. I want the cartwheel actually traveling long, and this goes for all cartwheels. I want travel, I want distance. Trying to reach square, finish square facing that wall. Also notice hands are turned in. You'll get a lot of kids that will turn their hands out on their cartwheels. And that compromises the push at the tail end. If I'm coming up like this, I can't really push hard off the ground. 1, because my arm's in a bad position for it. 2, my wrist is now fully extended, and so my body's going to eat that pressure. It doesn't want to put pressure at that severe angle. So you want to keep the fingers turned in, and ultimately on a lunge to lunge, you want to start working toward the T hand that's going to happen for a round off. So my first hand, fingers facing that way. Second hand, fingers facing back the direction I came from. And that's getting me squared up so we can start working on round offs. Does that make sense? Lazy arms at the end are very common. You get a lot of lunge cartwheels that are here. Right? And always pushing off the floor, bringing the arms up, because ultimately when we start doing round off back handsprings, I want that automatic arms up, arms up, arms up. And if we start that early on, it is easier to keep that when it's going on later.
Do another T hand.
Yep. And always talk about extension in the cartwheel. We want to think about, as we do these cartwheels, right? We're pushing, feet and hands are as far away from your center as they can be. Really extending all the time. And that extension, you know, if we add length, that's naturally going to help straighten out arms and legs. But we'll do this sometimes. I'll do challenges. Okay, start at that line. How many cartwheels does it take you to get to the other side of the floor? Try to get that number down. And we do that as a goal, and some of the kids just know their numbers. Well, that's 5 for me, you know, because we do that periodically. I just test them on them. Okay? We're working on length. Okay? XX, lunge, yes.
I've had a couple girls come over recently, start the gym, that are looking at their hands with their whole face in their cartwheel, and it's causing their back to arch a lot. It's really, yeah, and their heels are really looping around, and they're getting.
So super arched?
Yeah, their back gets super arched.
Let's see if I can do this, man.
And their
I know what
heels,
you're
you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Yes, and they're making their cartwheel, they're comfortable doing it, and they're landing like in their lunge, but in the middle they're so unstable and so wobbly, and I'm having a hard time fixing that with just
Have them go between
wedge
the
of
two
death.
wedges. The two wedges.
So if you have,
The wedge
How
of
do they understand? They don't understand.
this will teach them.
Well, they'll crash a lot.
They'll crash a lot. Who cares? They'll fall.
Okay.
So have them do their cartwheel, and they got to put their hands close to the wedge mat and do their cartwheel like that. And you know, for me, I'd need one taller.
Right,
But
okay.
yeah, that's about, because that'll fix 2 things. If you put your head out, your head hits the mat, and if your heels come over, your heels hit the mat. So, and then you do 2 of them. You put one here, you only give like a foot in between them.
Okay.
And you have them do, especially if you've tried to verbally coach it and say, I've even done this, like let's say you go prep to do a cartwheel. They know where their feet are, whether they're fully consciously aware or not. Let's say you were going to do a cartwheel, so get into a cartwheel. So, okay, I'm going to stand right here. If you do a cartwheel right now, are you going to kick me? They're going to go, yeah. And it's that kind of thing where it says, look, this is what we're trying to get. I ought to be able to stand like this and have you do a cartwheel and not kick.
Yes, right.
So they're aware, whether they're consciously aware of it, the instant you give them that sort of scenario, they're like, yeah, don't do that, I don't want to kick you.
Right. Okay.
Right? They'll get that. And so set up something physical, you know, whether it's the mat or, again, you can go and stand there and just watch, and you can block their feet with your hands. So I'm going to do it on the line. I'm going to stand right here. Don't kick me. And whoop, and you just catch their foot and you kicked me.
Use the mat. Use the mat.
Use the mat.
Use the mat.
Wrap myself in a mat.
Yeah. I mean, I'll do that a lot. It depends on the skill, whether you know you can actually just raise it.
And the kid.
Kid, how
Like
big
if
are they?
they're heavy-footed. You know, like I've been kicked by them before. I know.
You know, one thing that I worked on when it comes to learning kids, we talked about this before, is using like something with a raisable, like a rope, like on a Velcro thing, and you'd have just like on the wall, we could have Velcro points. Mm-hmm. And you put that mat, instead of them going close and having to kick a wall or something, if the kids that don't get high enough, you have that mat, and you have a rope, Velcro, 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 Velcro. And as you go for your cartwheel, or whatever, Velcro here, whatever, as you go, you raise the Velcro rope higher and higher and higher. It was something we talked about doing on the mushroom.
over it.
They have to go
Yeah.
over the rope, and they'll have to kick higher and higher. If they hit it, just pull the Velcro off, stick it back on.
Yeah.
But it'd be an interesting way to start having kids go over something and have it. But I mean, that could be done. You know, have them get closer and closer to the mat. I don't know. I mean, there are different ways to do it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I find with most kids that kind of does, it develops.